Survival for early humans was almost never a solo endeavor. A single person alone on the Ice Age tundra, without a group to share food, warmth, and defense, faced enormously long odds. So it might seem strange that anthropological and archaeological evidence points to something uncomfortable. Early human bands sometimes excluded their own members. Not constantly, and not casually, group survival depended on cooperation too much for exile to be handed out lightly. But exclusion did happen, and understanding why gives us a surprisingly clear window into how these small societies actually worked, what they valued, and what they feared. Let's be clear about what exclusion looked like. It rarely meant a dramatic banishment scene. More often, it was gradual. A person stopped being included in hunts, wasn't offered a share of meat, was left out of decisions made around the fire. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer societies, like the Huahanzi of the Kalahari or the Hadza of Tanzania, have documented the same pattern for decades. These groups have no police, no courts, no jails. So social pressure, gossip, mockery, cold shoulders, and ultimately exclusion functioned as their entire justice system. It's a strategy anthropologists believe stretches back tens of thousands of years. So what actually got someone excluded? The most common trigger, across countless studied societies, is failing to share. Hunter-gatherer life runs on reciprocity. Today's successful hunter feeds the group. Tomorrow, someone else will. A person who hoarded food or consistently took more than their share threatened that entire system of trust. Repeated free riding, benefiting from the group's efforts without contributing, was treated as a serious offense because in a small band, a few chronic freeloaders could tip the balance between a community that thrives and one that starves during a community that thrives and one that starves during a hard season. Violence and dangerous unpredictability were the other major triggers. A person who couldn't control aggression, who injured others or threatened the group's safety, was a direct liability in bands where everyone lived within arm's reach of one another. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm, who spent years studying egalitarian foraging societies, described how these groups actively suppressed bullying and domination, even by their strongest hunters. Someone who tried to grab too much power, intimidate others, or refused to follow shared norms could face ridicule, then shunning, and in rare extreme cases, expulsion from the band entirely, and expulsion was almost never a mild punishment, it was closer to a death sentence. Outside the group, an individual lost access to shared fire tending, cooperative hunting, lookout duty against predators, and the collective knowledge of where water and food could be found. Alone on the landscape, that person faced starvation, exposure, and predation from animals like cave lions or wolf packs with none of the group's usual defenses. This is precisely why exclusion functioned as such powerful social glue. The threat of it was often enough. Most people conformed to group norms not from constant fear, but because everyone understood exactly what isolation would cost them. Importantly, exclusion wasn't reserved only for wrongdoing. Some evidence suggests illness, visible disability, or perceived bad luck could also lead to a person being marginalized, particularly if a group was under serious resource stress. Yet other archaeological finds complicate that picture. Skeletons showing severe injuries or disabilities, healed over years, tell us that some individuals were cared for long-term rather than cast out, suggesting real variation between groups and between calm times versus times of scarcity. Exclusion, in other words, was a pressure valve used selectively, not a fixed rule applied automatically. So why does this matter for understanding prehistoric life? Because it shows early human morality wasn't primitive or simple, it was a functioning social contract, enforced through relationships rather than written law. Sharing, cooperation, and controlled behavior weren't just nice ideals, they were survival infrastructure, and violating them carried real consequences. The threat of exclusion helped bind small, vulnerable groups together across generations, in some of the harshest environments our species ever faced. In many ways, it's an early ancestor of the same social pressures, reputation, belonging, the fear of being left out, that still quietly shape human behavior today. So, the next time you drizzle honey into your tea without a second thought, spare a moment for the countless early humans who got there first, with sticky hands, watering eyes, and a few unfortunate stings to show for it. It's a small, sweet reminder that some of humanity's oldest habits weren't really about survival at all. Sometimes, then as now, it was simply about wanting something delicious badly enough to risk getting stung for it.